Hi everyone, it's me, Tim. Today I want to go through a detailed interview question on crafting. It's something I found in my notes, and I've already done videos on the kind of questions I like to ask people in interviews. And I wanted to do this one because it's very specific and very detailed, and I will give you the context. This is the kind of question I would ask if I've already gone through a bunch of resumes of people. I've talked to them on the phone, probably already a couple times, and at this point we're at the one-on-one interview stage where either we've brought them in, which is usually what we do because we want to talk to them, sitting in a conference room, maybe with a whiteboard, maybe just back and forth, or if that can't be done, we'll do it over a video call. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to go specifically, here's a question that I would ask, it's very specific, it has lots of parts, that I would ask if I was hiring a system designer to do a crafting system in my RPG. And by the way, none of this should be a shock to the person at this point because we've talked multiple times. They know we're making an RPG. They should know what kind of RPGs I make. If not, this is somebody who didn't do their homework. I've already told them I'm hiring them as a system designer specifically to do a crafting system. So none of this should come as a shock. Just ahead of time, I'm telling you what this test is. I want to not only know what answer they come up with, but I'm kind of testing their background knowledge. What do they know about other games, similar games that we're going to be competing with? And also, how good are they at explaining themselves to me? Because guess what? We'll be working together, and you need to explain your ideas to me. So let's dive into it, and I will give you the entire detailed question, which I've written down in front of me. So, please create a crafting system. The genre is a blend of science fiction and fantasy, so these crafting skills can run the gamut from blacksmithing and mining to engineering and salvaging. Please describe all the skills in your system first, then pick any one of those skills you want and answer the following 9 questions. 1. How are the raw components collected to use that skill? 2. What other reagents are required, if any, and where are they purchased, dropped, or made? 3. How are the crafted items created? Specifically, walk me through the process that the player will do. 4. Explain the progression of this trade skill over time. As the player goes up in level, how can this trade skill advance? 5. Is there any crossover between this trade skill and any of the others that you listed above? 6. Are there any tie-ins between this trade skill or any of the trade skills with the game's quest system? If so, explain what those tie-ins are. 7. Explain how you will incorporate money sinks into this trade skill. If there are no money sinks involved in this trade skill, explain to me why you chose that decision. 8. How will you control the rarity of items created with this trade skill? And 9. Is this trade skill level limited or restricted in use by the owner's class or other non-trade skills if this is not a class-based game? And then finally, there are 2 more general questions I would ask about crafting in general. The first one is, please provide your thoughts on trade skills as mini games within this game. Would you implement them that way? If so, describe one. If not, why would you not use mini games as an interface element of these trade skills? And then the final question would be, please describe how your crafting system is an improvement over systems from other role-playing games. Be specific, give concrete examples, name the game, and describe how its crafting system worked. Okay, I would expect this discussion to last at least 30 minutes, sometimes an hour. I would expect this person to have answers to all these questions. And I would expect to have some questions about their answers, about why did you choose that? How do you think this would affect other systems? What advantages do you see here and what are some disadvantages? I find it especially interesting if someone can't design something and tell me what they think a disadvantage of it might be. Because I've never seen a perfect system, and if you're designing a system that you think is perfect, you're either the most brilliant designer I've ever encountered, or you lack the ability to self-examine your own work. Also, the importance of that last question about how is your system an improvement over systems in other games, my purpose for that is to see what other games you've played. Because if you can't answer it, then that means you're going to design a game in a... Sorry, the sun just came in my face. You're just trying to design trade skills in a complete vacuum, which you might have brilliant ideas for crafting systems, but if you don't know whether they've been used before and you've never seen crafting systems in other RPGs, you may not be the person I want to put on the front line of designing a new crafting system for one of my RPGs. Anyway, I wanted you guys to hear these questions. I would love to talk about it and talk about why, because I've done other videos on job interviews, questions I ask in general, and then some specific questions. I will link them below. But what I liked about this, it was very specific. It was, here's a set of interview questions on one specific type of hire, a system designer, for one specific task, crafting. And it's a perfect example of how I can talk for a full hour with a candidate about this one thing, just to get an idea of how he or she thinks of system design, of player advancement, of how a system fits into larger systems, and to get an idea of how many other games they've played and how many of those games they've critically thought about. Not just, yeah, I played that game, it was fun or it was dumb. I want to know why you liked it and why you didn't like it. And specifically for this one, let's dive into those crafting questions. I know some people don't like these kinds of questions, and especially don't like doing it in person and don't like doing it on a whiteboard. But this is the closest way I can think of simulating how you and I will work together. So if this is the kind of interaction that makes you uncomfortable, then maybe we can't work well together. So there's kind of a meta reason for this kind of test. You may be the best crafting designer in the entire planet, but if I can't sit down with you and ask you questions about your work, we can't work together. So and that may be as much on me as on you, but that's kind of what these questions are designed to elicit. Anyway, I'd love to hear you guys give feedback on this. Were there other questions I should have asked for a crafting system designer interview? Do you think some of these questions are unfair, or should I have gone into more detail on them? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Anyway, that's my example of a specific, detailed design interview question for crafting.